Welcome back to another edition of Digging In, a deeper look at South Dakota High School volleyball, and we're here with our friends from Adrenaline Volleyball once again, Darren Tipton and Haley Dotseth, and there's a lot to dig into this week. First of all, a lot of fun this week out in the volleyball courts.
Yes, we got to play all the volleyball this week. It seems like every other match was 5 sets, so really exciting. Just, again, the very first week of volleyball to be this close.
Yeah, and then the fans, I mean, being back in the stands and just the excitement and some new teams popping up, which we're going to talk about. Every time we turned a match, it was like, oh, that's a surprise, or that's a surprise, or they're in 5 sets. It was awesome, and I think there's just going to be more of it. It's good foreshadowing for the rest of the season.
Yeah, you learn a lot in the first couple weeks of the season, but that's why we keep playing those games and keep getting better, and we're going to try to make sense of what's happened so far. Let's start off with who's hot? Some of the teams around the state who have really made an impression. We'll start with you, Darren. What's a team that's been hot so far?
Yeah, we've given them a lot of press because they deserve it. Wolsey Wessington, and had a chance to actually stop by their practice yesterday. They are dancing, literally. They can't believe it. I hadn't realized their program has never made the Sodak 16 before, and they're 3-0, but 3 5-set matches. Nothing's been easy, but wins over Arlington, Northwestern, and Warner. And I think a good trivia question might be, who's the last team to beat Warner and Northwestern in the same season? You might have to go back a long, long time to, if you ever find that.
The answer?
So, no, I don't think. I don't think.
Somebody out there.
Yeah, you find it. Yeah, and so that would be interesting to do, but it hasn't happened in a long time. Obviously, their first win ever against those programs, but they're a deep team. We watch them like they are really, really good. So a huge surprise, but they're on fire. And I know sometimes we get caught up in big schools, whatever, but it's so cool. Like every one of those kids is just enjoying it, and their smiles on their faces, and they're experiencing all of this for the first time. But they are definitely one of the hottest teams in the state.
I imagine they looked at their schedule in the first 3 games, and at least the coaching staff probably wasn't too thrilled with the way that set up. But I'll tell you what, they approached it, and they knocked them all down so far. So now we'll see where they go from here. That'll be the test.
Well, and to stay calm against those teams in 5-set matches
right.
early in the year. We kind of talked about that Arlington triangular with Northwestern, Arlington, Wolsey Wessington got over about 11-15, 11-30, and it was a lot of volleyball. But to come out on top, they went, they were down 0-2 their very first match to Arlington. They come back, and then their coach said they got about a 5-minute break, and then, oh, by the way, here's Northwestern. They, traded sets with them, pull it out, catch your breath, and now, oh, by the way, here comes Warner on Tuesday night in your home opener. So great for them, but they are definitely one of the hotter teams right now.
Yeah, no, there's more than them. They're the big story, obviously. But Haley, you've got another team that you want to talk about who is in the hot category.
Yeah, I think in this team I would more categorize as heating up, I guess, with a slower start to the season, only playing 2 matches. And I chose Elkton Benton because they have, like I said, a pretty exciting couple of weeks coming up with, you mentioned Arlington, a very competitive Arlington tournament with teams like Warner, Fulton. Again, Arlington are very, very competitive matches. So really excited to see what this Elkton Benton team can do. Again, they move up to Class A this year, so you talk about a team like Wolsey Wessington who really played with nothing to lose the first couple of matches of the season. I think that's what we're really looking at for Elkton Benton too, moving up in class and really getting after it this next couple games. Yeah,
challenging, more challenging schedule than they've played in the past, but so far so good for Elkton Benton. My team who's hot, let's talk about Rapid City Christian a little bit. We knew they were really young coming into this year. We didn't know what to expect with Riley Freeland gone, but we knew Olivia Kiefer and a lot of these juniors are really playing well. And they came out and played their own tournament, the Rapid City Christian tournament, and won all those games. Won a close one against Madison, was challenged against a team like St. Thomas More and took them down. Even Scottsbluff, a couple teams from Nebraska coming up, and they took care of business there too. So a good start for Rapid City Christian on a team where they didn't exactly know how much they had coming back from last year.
Yeah, definitely a confidence booster, I think, to be able to come into your own tournament and really take care of business.
And a couple of reports from the tournament. First, we didn't know the health of Olivia Kiefer. That was big. She played and played well, but also the emergence of Anna Eggy, and a couple of the opposing coaches mentioned her as well, and that's always a nice compliment when that happens. And so those two, and again, we're on that theme of you got to have multiple weapons, with some new pieces, and just letting that new setter position evolve and develop and get experience with the year. But huge win for them as they just try and strengthen their schedule. Playing a Madison team definitely helps that.
Yeah, that was a nice win. Kylie Callio, their new setter, who's trying to fill some pretty big shoes there. All right, let's move on to the next segment of the show. Some under-the-radar stars. We talk a lot about the headliners, but there are some really important pieces on a volleyball team that we want to talk about, not necessarily those A-listers, but those supporting cast that have done a great job. Let's point out a couple of them. Darren, let's start with you.
Well, we'll stay with Wolsey Wessington, and Maya Boomsma is probably their best attacker. They have depth. I think we could go with about 2/3 of their roster here that we didn't know a lot about until really Monday night. But Maya's probably their offensive leader as far as all-around game. Came to our Rising Stars camp, did a great job. You want to talk about a heavy arm. That's her, probably their best, most aggressive server on the team. So somebody to watch as a junior on the outside. But again, I think there's 4 or 5 other names that we'll learn about more as the year goes on with them.
Yeah, let's keep that list on. Who do you have? Who's a little under the radar, Haley?
Yeah, I want to point out Taylor Schallenkamp because I know from Bridgewater Emery senior right side, we typically talk about Julia Weber a lot, and she definitely deserves a ton of that recognition. Super athletic, physical outside hitter. But I think a lot of her stats come from what Taylor does on the right side. She's able to pull that block away from Julia some of those times and command attention from that block so that they both kind of intermix with that single block, so it's much easier for them to score and they can be a lot more efficient. So I think Taylor, again, deserves a lot of that recognition too and may not put up the huge numbers just because she's on the other pin.
Yeah, I've watched those teams a little bit. You're more of a volleyball expert than I am, but when I watch Julia, she comes with the power. And when I watch Taylor, she might even get a little higher. She's a little taller and is a great other option on the other pin.
Yeah, and I think she puts up a really good block too. Yeah. We talk about Bridgewater Emery needing to match their defense with their offensive power. She can put up a huge block on the right side to match up with the other team's outside, which is typically one of the go-to hitters. I think that's huge for them, and definitely seeing a lot of great stuff from her this year.
Good one to point out. Mine this week is Allie Abraham, a junior from Hamlin. This is a team that is coming off of a strong season. Again, a younger group coming up, and she stepped up as the middle blocker. Under 6 foot, but still can get up there and protect the net. But she's actually been doing a lot of the attacking this year, too, from the middle, which has been a great surprise. I don't know if it's a surprise. People expect her to do well, but she's done even better than I thought. And because of her efficiency, that's really what I've been impressed with. Hitting .338 so far this year and attacking from the middle. Sometimes you get a little higher percentage, but she has been on fire so far to start the season. Good start for Allie Abraham.
Yeah, and she was their, I think, emotional and communication leader, energy to burn. Really impressed us in the state tournament last year. And now her taking on a much bigger role with the graduation of their seniors last year. So energy, and just love her attitude on the court.
Yeah, and I think, Ashton Abraham, her sister, was the go-to outside last season, and I think she kind of just picked up where her sister left off when it comes to leadership. So exciting to see her step up, and you're right, offensively she's been super efficient. Off
to a great start. All right, let's go to the next segment. We'll talk about some of the statement matches of the week, and what we mean by statement matches are this is an opportunity for teams to play maybe 1 or even 2 big matches within a week that will really test them to see if they belong at the top. Darren, start us out. What are some of the statement matches this week?
What we look at, Mitchell's off to a 4-1 start, and tonight I think they have Sioux Falls, Washington coming into their place, so a home match will be fired up, and this is their chance, that 4-1 record. Washington ranked number 2 in the state, undefeated, only 2 matches, but a great chance for them to get that big signature win. That would be a huge momentum boost and really show people where they at, and maybe even if they, I'm sure, just watching how they compete with Washington. Because at the postseason, there's going to be a lot of Sioux Falls schools in that race in AA, so a great chance for Mitchell to make a big statement. It would be a huge win for them tonight, taking on Washington.
Yeah, and Washington obviously coming off of a big win. You were at that match. What are some impressions with Washington after taking out Lincoln, the first team to do so?
Yeah, that match was everything I think we thought it would be. It was tight. When Washington struggled, it was a little bit their defense. They got that corrected, came back, and it really shows you the momentum swings. But they're doing it right now, and a couple kids, Shelby Kinzer playing 5'8" middle in AA, did a great job. Just some of their role players in their back row doing some good things, and then they're developing a couple sophomores, sophomore setter, another sophomore middle, and then Ellie Walker down the stretch with I think 3 or 4 kills in the 5th set to put it away, I think. But and we talked to Kelly, Coach Schroeder, afterwards. He's like, hey, when our defense is good, we're good. And it was really, really good in their opening match of the season. So Washington just kind of where they were. It took them a little bit to get rolling, but a huge win for them. And there's about that much separating them and Lincoln, and probably O'Gorman's right in that mix. It's going to be fun. So.
Let's start. Okay, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say I think Ellie Walker got some chest bumps after those last 3 kills because it was her 3 times in a row. I think she ended up on the ground with the celebration.
You got to be tough to play volleyball, right?
Well, I will just tell you the environment there, and I think we saw a couple tweets about the O'Gorman match too. The environment was all your hair stood up on the back of the neck. I talked to Mr. Melchout before the game. I'm like, this is awesome to have fans back, and both of those crowds were into it. So it was a cool atmosphere and a great game. But Mitchell trying to duplicate that and knock them off tonight.
We'll see. Now another statement match we want to talk about is Pierre. This is a team that's gotten off to a good start, but this is one of the biggest challenges. And then Aberdeen the same way. They've gotten off to a good start, but this will be a big challenge in Pierre. What are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, well, they're both off to a 3-0 start, so neither team has lost yet. But I think the matchups will be really interesting. Aberdeen Central is relying very heavily offensive-wise, at least, on Grace Cook, and they've actually moved her to the outside. I believe last year she was in the middle, so I don't know if they worked her into that position or just decided they needed more swings out of her. But in contrast, Pierre's very equal and spread out offensively, so I think if Aberdeen can get a few more players going, it'll be a really tight match. But, I think we got to see from the Governors spreading it out between Terwilliger, between Kaiser, and then Schleckiway too in the middle. So I think it'll be really interesting, again, just to see the matchups in that match.
Well, it's that old region, I believe, 3AA, right, rivalry. They've been ESD rivalry, and it'll be probably their toughest matchup, I guess, of the year for both of them. Seeing really where they're at, and both, I think, are fairly young teams. So whoever comes out on top will be a big momentum boost because it's a solid team. And it's really a statement match for both of them. And with us watching to see, okay, Pierre is here or Aberdeen is here early on this season. So I think just big confidence-wise for whoever comes out on top.
I think number of sets too. If one team is able to sweep the other, I think that makes a huge statement.
Yeah, I think it's a good confidence builder at this point just to have a good win against a team that's off to a good start. But that's not the final say, obviously, as we go into the season.
But one thing too, and I need to move on, but even when we're talking to some teams like Wolsey Wessington, for example, they just said, hey, we want to show that we can play with a Northwestern, right? So there are good losses and being competitive, and coaches know that. And that's like I even say with Mitchell, they want to come in tonight. Yeah, they'd love to win, but if they push and they're in every set with Washington, they take that away as, hey, we can build on that. And so sometimes when it's just watching how they play in a big match, that's as important as a win or a loss. Yeah, you want to win everything, but first you got to be in the match to win it.
Yeah.
And a lot of these teams, that's a big step.
All right. Well, that's a couple of statement matches that we're keeping our eyes on. Another segment we want to talk about are some Player of the Year candidates. Yes, we're in the second week, and we're already talking about Player of the Year. But here, it's going to take us this long every week to talk about candidates. So we're just going to start out with 3 players we really want to highlight that are top level players. Let's start with Sydney Timms. Darren, we'll start with you, but Haley, chime in. What do you have to say about Sydney?
Well, Sydney, one of the more athletic middles in the state, probably runs the slide as well as anybody does. Had a big weekend at Huron, which they went 4-0. And, one thing you realize, we look at stats, we don't put a lot of cred into stats. Sometimes she's sharing the stage with Van Egdom, Katie Van Egdom, so her swings and some of her stats are going to be down. Very athletic on the block as well, just extremely athletic kid that will have a much bigger role this year than she even had last year when she kind of burst onto our radar a little bit. But just fun to watch. And stats won't tell the whole story with how much she does for Sioux Falls.
Yeah, athletically, just watching her cover, how much ground she can cover. Defensively, how much ground she covers at the net and how long she stays in the air. It's pretty amazing. What do you think of Sydney?
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head. She's definitely runs the slide better than anyone I've seen at this point. But yeah, I think she's one of those players too that's very even keel too when it comes to leadership and emotionally, which is what that Sioux Falls Christian team needs. When you have a player like Katie Van Egdom going up for those huge kills, if she can stay consistent and hit for a really high percentage, which again, I don't know her stats, but I'm sure she is, she just wills the ball to score sometimes. So again, excited to see what she can do leadership-wise on that team as well.
Sydney Timms of Sioux Falls Christian is getting it done. Here's a player in Class B, a couple that we're going to touch on. First one, Julia Weber. I know her from playing a great basketball. She's been great there. She's been great on the volleyball court for a couple years as well. And the more I watch her, the more powerful that swing gets. But let's start with you, Darren. Impressions of Julia.
Well, I think we watched her a lot last year, too, and she gets a lot of swings. Athletic, explosive would be words for her. But we were very, very impressed when she came to one of our camps this summer. And I think we tweeted it, like she could compete with any outside hitter in the state with her all-around game. And that was something that maybe we didn't see a year ago, but explosive, athletic, and a huge arm for her. Somebody who's, will have more of those stats because she's going to get a lot more swings than, like Van Egdom or a Timms, but she capitalizes, hits for a very high percentage. But you could plug her into any lineup in the state and she could start it outside.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about her playing basketball. I think she's one of those athletes that just isn't phased. Like, she likes a challenge. She wants those big swings, and I think you can see that. Like I said, she's ready for that challenge, and she wants that pressure almost to step up on any stage, really, in any given night.
And she's definitely one we're going to keep an eye on. Another one in Class B. There's always somebody from Northwestern, right? A little different Northwestern team than we're used to, but Ella Haven seems like she's the one that's stepped up. She plays in the back row. She'll play in the front row. She is all over the court, and so far so good for Ella. What are your impressions, Darren?
Yeah, all around, except in a lot bigger role, much more maybe an offensive weapon this year. And, we got some tweets and some posts during the weekend, especially during the Parkston tournament. So they came off that long night on Thursday, and 3 or 4 people were like, hey, Ella Haven's has it together. She's having a big day. Had a huge day in the Parkston tournament in which they swept a Wagner team that we were really big on. Went to 3 with McCook Central Montrose. But again, 4 or 5 people from outside of the Northwestern program were like, hey, she had a huge day. And she's going to have a lot of those this year for the Wildcats.
Yeah, and she's swinging kind of from everywhere, too. I think they're trying to just get that offensive rhythm going. I know they lost a lot of those swings last year with Sydney Shell, but she's swinging from each pin and from the middle, which she was more traditionally a middle last year. So she just continues, I guess, to add more to her plate, and she's handling it well.
And the other thing, too, a really good connection with their setter. However, I mean, those two are on the same page, so they just have that connection, which helps early on, and I think she'll carry more of the load as they wait for some of the younger ones to just gain more experience. But right now, she is their offensive leader and a heck of a junior, but a heck of a volleyball player.
Those are a few Player of the Year candidates. Obviously not the complete list, but all year long we're going to go through some of the top players and highlight some of the elite talent in volleyball. All right, let's wrap up the show with the free ball. We can talk about whatever we missed. And what do you want to talk about, Darren?
I don't know if we missed it, but it's still exciting. It's just the depth and I think some of the high-level parity in Class B that maybe hasn't always been there. And I know it's very, very early, but for the first time in a long time, we're going through 5, 6, 7 names of teams that you project in November could be there, and that would make such a fun weekend in Rapid City. So parity and depth in Class B.
Yeah, I think you said it earlier. It's just like foreshadowing. The season to come in Class B, and what's so exciting that there's so many teams playing such close volleyball the very first week. Like usually that doesn't happen until, come postseason. So I think that's, we talked a lot about Class B volleyball today because there's a ton happening in Class B volleyball.
Well, what did you say? It's a transitive, is that what we tried to use to?
The transitive property, oh yeah, when we were doing rankings earlier this week, we were like, well, they lost to them by this much, and they beat them by this much, and I had to throw my scratch piece of paper away because I was like, I just don't think this is
That's
right.
where watching the games helps so much.
Yeah.
Because I've done that too. If you just look at the scoreboard, sometimes it doesn't tell the whole story.
But you look at an Arlington with that kind of jokingly, but look at an Arlington, right? And I don't know what their record is, but they go 0-2 in the triangular, and they lose in 5 to Northwestern, and they lose in 5 to Wolsey Wessington. So you can't tell me a team like Arlington doesn't think right now, hey, if we played either of those teams in the state tournament, we got a chance to win, right? And then you look at a Chester who needs to get healthy and everything, but heck, some people had a 2, we dropped them to 5, who knows? And then we haven't seen Elkton, Bridgewater, Emery. Just as we were writing names down there, the 6th team I wrote down, we had them as number 2 in our power poll. They're undefeated, and they've looked very, very good. And
you guys talked about Castlewood last week, an up-and-coming young team.
They're 4-0
hasn't
still.
been tested yet.
Yeah, well, I think they lose to Elkton Lake Benton on Tuesday night.
I must have missed that.
They won.
Okay, that's why I go to bed early. That's what happens. So, well, no, they, and so Castlewood's that other team that's in there, and it's just, I don't know, it's exciting to have that because we've always talked about that in AA, and there are a lot of teams that could beat teams and knock each other off, and I think you're going to see a lot of that in Class B, and it's just, especially because of how those smaller communities follow, and the attendance is better, and it's just, I don't know. It's
Gets
cool.
us all excited.
Yeah, it does. It
Ready
gets
to
me
go.
really excited. So it'd be interesting to see how that plays out and changes throughout the year. And teams jostle for postseason positioning to see who they can play in a SODAC 16. Because right now you look, would it be crazy if a Wolsey Wessington's the number 1 overall seed, and we haven't had that for a while or ever.
That triangular we saw already. I mean, they all could be at stake. You could have a rematch of any one of those games with the Northwestern, Arlington, and we haven't really talked about Warner. I mean, Warner's still pretty good.
Yeah.
I think they're a team that's, in my mind, still probably the best team in Class B. But Wolsey obviously made a huge statement.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think they just have to find kind of the rhythm offensively. Who is going to be that go-to hitter down the stretch? And I think that's where Wolsey found it, and they were able to go to Boomsma and really get it done. But there's how many weeks left of the season left? So.
Right. Well, one thing I don't know, and I hate to break down the X's and O's, but I just saw the length of Wolsey Wessington gave Warner some problems, and especially offensively, and the fact of how well they played defense. I think in the back row, keeping some balls alive, that normally that's Warner doing more of that. And was it 7-3? They were down in the 5th set, 7-4 maybe, and made that run. They had that confidence to do it. But no, Warner is fine. That's exactly why we're talking about this, because there are 6-7 teams, and I don't know, just bring on November.
Yeah. The other crazy thing is that these teams, it's so hard to beat a good team twice. All of them are going to have to play each other again come postseason. So who knows, maybe Wolsey Wessington comes out on top this time, Warner comes out on top next time, but
That's why we play the games.
Yeah. Well, I will tell you one thing, and we talked to Jocelyn Richardson from Sioux Falls, Washington, before their match, and we were tweeting it out. It happened to be a Monday where there were, I think, 3 matches in the state. And we tweeted it out, and she's like, hey, I watched that match. I didn't even know about it. And she goes, that was great. People, if you are home on a night, go look up on the Activity Association site who's playing. There's some great volleyball going on all over, and I think that's always kind of our mission, is just appreciate all the great teams, no matter the class, no matter if you play them, no matter if they beat you or you beat them. There is some great volleyball going on all over, and it was cool for Jocelyn to say that. She's like, wow, I didn't even know that, and that was really fun to watch. And now maybe they watch another match later on, and I think that's how we grow the popularity of this, is by watching these hard-working athletes laying it all on the floor every night. So
that's why I follow Adrenaline Volleyball on social media, because you guys keep up with the best games and then helps us all find them. Speaking of Adrenaline Volleyball, what are you guys up to this week? Anything fun planned for you guys?
You doing anything fun?
Well, next week we're headed.
Games, right?
Yes, we're headed to the Warner Northwestern match, and we'll do our first serve show live. That's a mouthful to say in a row. First serve show live from there, just previewing the match and the history of that rivalry, which I think is really cool, just in the history of South Dakota volleyball, just in general. But that's where we'll be next week.
Yeah, this weekend will just be, it's a little bit slower because of the holiday weekend, and we're gonna take a little time as well, and we'll have our week ahead show Monday night, 7:30 again, and then we'll be on with you. And then as soon as we're done with you, we're gonna pack up the car and zip up to Warner and do that. It's exciting. We've talked a lot about that rivalry, and excited for Haley to experience it for the first time. It's really cool. So yeah, we'll find something to watch and talk about.
Well, it's been awesome having you guys on. I appreciate all your coverage, and thank you for watching this, and we'll see you guys next week.